Hi guys. Today, I'm going to recap a 2018 mystery thriller movie titled Red Sparrow. Dominika Egorova, a former dancer, joins a program run by Russian intelligence and transforms into a sparrow. She then uses her body as a weapon to lure a CIA agent into a trap set by the Russians. How much can she get away with by using her charms to win their trust? Let's find out together. The story takes place in modern-day Russia. Dominika Egorova is a well-known ballerina. She starts her day before her performance by listening to some music. Somewhere in another place, a CIA agent named Nate Nash listens to a secret tape. Dominika enters the theater and begins applying cosmetics as Nate cracks the code and grabs a weapon from under his desk. Nate arrives in the park to meet his Russian mole, codenamed Marble, just as Dominika begins her performance. Classical music ramps up as the tension between our two protagonists rises. When challenged by the authorities, Nate opens fire to draw attention away from his mole. He is pursued through the town, however, he is successful in making it to the embassy of the United States. Dominika is picked up by her leading man, who spins her around in the air, but as he prepares to set her down, he accidentally drops her, and she lands in an awkward position. At the same time that Dominika was falling and breaking her ankle, Nate gave up and surrendered by falling to the ground. Ivan, Dominika's uncle and the deputy director of the Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation, or SVR, pays her a visit and gives her the opportunity to work for the organization. In addition to this, he offers her images of her lead man making out with the girl who took Dominika's place in the ballet. Dominika realizes that she was purposefully abandoned, and she confronts the two people responsible. When she entered the theater, she discovered the two leads of the ballet having sex in the restroom. After giving them each a vicious beating with her walking stick, she walked away from the scene. Dominika sees that her mother is lying helpless on the ground when she arrives home, and it becomes immediately apparent to her that in order to provide adequate care for her mother, she would have to accept the job that her uncle offered. In addition, considering that another ballerina has taken her place, she is in need of another work. Therefore, she gets in touch with her uncle, and then she gets right to work. During the time that her uncle's voice is giving directions, Dominika dresses herself. She is entrusted with seducing Dmitry Ustinov for information, but when they get to his room, he begins to force himself into her. This is despite the fact that she is supposed to seduce him. During this time, a third SVR agent walks into the room and kills Dmitry by suffocating him with a piece of wire. Dominika is presented with two options: either she can undergo training to become an agent, or she can be killed for seeing the murder of Dmitry. She has no other option, so she gives in and begins her training after accepting the offer. Dominika is required to attend State School 4 in order to complete her training as a Red Sparrow. When she arrives to this location, she is greeted by the matron, who informs her that if she is unable to serve her state, the matron will put a bullet through her head. The lesson is about to begin when the matron summons Dominika and a boy called Victor to the front of the classroom and instructs them to strip naked. Victor is willing to comply, but Dominika is not. In the meantime, Nate has returned to Washington for his debriefing, during which he is informed that he will no longer be assigned to any overseas posts. Nate argues that he has been working with Marble for the past 3 years, and that he will not collaborate with any other party. The training that Dominika is receiving continues with various tasks like shooting, picking locks, and gaining an understanding of how various chemicals can be utilized and traced, in which Dominika shines. Nate is currently participating in a meeting with the CIA. He speaks to them and claims to have a tale, leading them to believe that Marble is still alive. Nate has been given one more mission by the CIA. He is to meet Marble in Budapest and get him to connect with one of the other agents. This is because the CIA has been unable to make touch with Marble. At State School number 4, the matron explains to the pupils the function of a Red Sparrow. Every single person in existence is a puzzle that's missing a piece. To be a successful Red Sparrow, one must first determine the genuine requirements of the other person and then become the component that is lacking. Students are given returning service personnel to care for and are instructed to meet all of their demands. Dominika selects a gentlemanly young man and invites him into her room. A few while after done servicing that gentleman, as she was taking a shower, another sparrow walked in and attempted to force himself into her. She takes off the handle of the shower and uses it as a weapon to beat him. Ivan, who is Dominika's uncle, is currently in a discussion about Nate with the more senior members of the SVR, including General Korchnoi. They are aware that Nate will attempt to make contact with their mole, and as a result, they are eager to bring in another agent to determine who their mole is. Dominika's persistent defiance of the matron's directives has resulted in tension between the two of them, yet despite this, the assignment in Budapest has been assigned to Dominika. In order to locate the mole, she needs to grow closer to Nate and earn his trust. Dominika relocates to a new flat, where she will be roommates with another agent named Marta. She does not waste any time in making initial contact with Nate, but he does not waste any time in determining that she is a Russian agent. Dominika searches Marta's room and learns that the latter is tasked with purchasing secret information from an experienced member of the United States staff named Stephanie Boucher. Dominika was invited to dinner by Nate, but she didn't end up coming. Instead, she waited outside for him to leave the restaurant. After that, She pursues him back to his apartment and questions him about the incident that occurred in the park at the beginning of the movie. Ivan contacts Dominika. She explains to him that she is gaining Nate's trust in order to get information from him about what happened during the night in the park. Dominika responds that she is assisting Marta with her assignment when Ivan encourages her to work more quickly and asks why she is not working quicker. When Dominika gets back to her flat, Marta has already been brutally killed for leaking information about Dominika's mission, and Dominika has been threatened with the same fate if she is unable to complete the mission successfully. Dominika visits Nate and spills the beans to him about everything. She is given the opportunity to work for the CIA, and he assures her that he will never treat her in the manner in which her uncle does. Dominika is successful in passing a lie detector test that was provided by the CIA, and she and her team immediately begin working on their first mission, which is to meet with Miss Boucher and trade the intelligence for phony discs that will be sent to the Russians. She is successful in completing this mission, but, when she is leaving the hotel, the Russians kidnap her and bring her back to their country. She is subjected to severe pain and suffering in this place. We observe that she is questioned on a number of occasions regarding whether or not she handed Miss Boucher over to the Americans. When she initially declines, she is humiliated by having her clothes taken off, being shut in a room, and having her hands tied to the ceiling. She is being pelted with water while very heavy metal music is being played in the background. The second time that Dominika responds negatively, she is pounded with a hammer all over her body, beginning with her knees and ending with her head. Dominika is threatened with a gun the very last time she insists that she did not hand Miss Boucher over to the Americans. However, when the gun's trigger is pressed, it is shown that it was unloaded all along. Ivan walks inside the room in order to speak to Dominika. He explains to her that the level of protection he can offer is limited to a certain extent. She then tells her uncle that the entire thing was part of her plan, and that she wanted to convince the Americans of her trustworthiness, that she needed to give Nate a reason to believe her, and that now that she has been tortured, Nate will have complete trust in her. Dominika begs her uncle to let her return to her previous employment so that she may demonstrate that she is capable of performing her duties in an effective manner. At this point, it is unclear which side she is actually on. We are left wondering about it. Dominika is reunited with Nate in Budapest after her trip, and the two of them enthusiastically embrace one another, demonstrating that the concern they have for one another appears to be genuine. To her surprise, however, Dominika wakes up in the middle of the night to discover that Nate is no longer sleeping next to her. She exits the room and enters the kitchen, where she finds Nate bound to a chair and an SVR agent torturing him in a slow and painful manner. Dominika's face initially shows signs of astonishment, but she quickly recovers her composure as she recalls what she needs to accomplish, and her eyes take on a more distant expression. She offers to assist in the extraction of information from Nate by removing slices of his skin as a means of doing so. Dominika persists despite Nate's screams of agony from the torture. Dominika and the SVR agent develop a relationship of trust, which causes the agent to relax his guard for just long enough for Dominika to launch an attack on him and liberate Nate. The two of them collaborate in order to bring down the Russians, but not before both of them have been injured and wounded themselves in the process. It would appear that Dominika's situation is hopeless as she continues to rehabilitate in the hospital. By preventing Nate's death, she exposed herself as a double agent to the Russians, and now she has no more options available to her. In the course of the movie, we have seen the guy known as General Korchnoi to be unwavering and scary. He now comes to talk to her. Just when it seemed like there was no way out, Korchnoi shocked everyone by admitting that he was the informant all along. Dominika's hard work and dedication have made an impression on Korchnoi, and as a result, he wants her to expose him so that he may earn the full trust of the Russians. She will then be able to take up his function by providing the United States with Russian intelligence. Korchnoi resigns himself to his plight and waits for the Russians to arrive so that they can ensure his impending death. On the airfield, a group of Russians and Americans come together to conduct a mole's transaction. Nate grabs Dominika by the arm and inquires as to how she was able to let go of the mole with such little effort. He is dissatisfied with the choice that she made. After stepping out of the aircraft, we observe that Marble is wearing a bag over his head. Nate continues to show his disappointment by revealing to Dominika that the Russians will never permit them to keep Marble alive if they capture him. Nate insists that he will never grasp what she has done since he does not make it a habit of throwing people away, despite her assertion that one day he would realize what she has done. Dominika makes her way toward the Russians, while Marble heads in the opposite direction toward the Americans. The only thing that has to be done now is for Nate to verify who the mole is. When the bag is removed, we discover that the one Dominika has pointed the finger of suspicion at as being Korchnoi is not, in point of fact, Korchnoi at all. Rather, it is her uncle Ivan. She would rather take down his cruel and unloving uncle by framing him. With this, she can save Korchnoi and get her rank up at the same time. Dominika's efforts to frame her uncle are shown to us in a series of flashbacks. These include stealing a glass from Nate's apartment and placing it in Ivan's, as well as creating a bank account in Ivan's name, into which she convinced the CIA to deposit money. Ivan's eyes take on the appearance of one who has accepted defeat, and as he walks by Dominika, he utters the phrase, "You have killed me. Didn't I do well, uncle?" is what she says in response to him. They go past each other, but just as Ivan is about to approach the American, someone opens fire and kills him. Dominika, who is in a state of shock, is forced into the helicopter by the Russians who have seized her. She will eventually be awarded a Medal of Honor by the Russians for her bravery. As the applause continues, Korchnoi acknowledges her work with a nod. Dominika goes back to tending to the needs of her mother. There is a call for her at this time. There is no voice, just the sound of traditional ballet music, which brings a smile to her face. Spies cannot be usefully employed without a certain intuitive sagacity. What do you think of this movie? Write your comments below. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.